If you want to develop more emotional intelligence and just live a more peaceful life in general, then you've got to make a conscious effort to improve your ability to understand. You've got to make that effort to understand why people in your life might disrespect you, or why you might act in a way that doesn't necessarily align with the person that you want to become. When you're able to pinpoint why things are happening the way that they are, you're no longer guessing. You're able to directly pinpoint certain situations and certain behaviors to different results. And it's pretty much like a superpower. Nothing is going to come as a shock anymore because you're understanding why things are happening the way that they are. And unfortunately, the ability to understand was never really my strong suit. But I went through 3 different examples that I'm going to share with you today that have improved my emotional intelligence, as well as just improved my ability to understand people and understand myself just a little bit more. So hopefully you get some value out of those experiences that I went through. Throughout this video, you're going to hear me repeat the phrase, the ability to understand, a lot. And it's really because I'm trying to emphasize the importance of it. And that's coming from somebody that didn't have that skill. Somebody that lived a large portion of their life without the ability to understand what was going on around them, or without the ability to understand why people were treating them in certain ways, etc. And for that period of time, it was kind of like I was just winging it. People would disrespect me, people would treat me poorly, and since I never understood or could pinpoint why exactly that was, I just continued to let that stuff happen. And on the flip side, I used to treat people poorly. I used to treat people disrespectfully, and I'm sure you guys are picking up on the theme here, but my inability to understand is the thing that allowed me to continue treating people the way that I was. And of course you can make the point that I was young. I still am young. It's no wonder that I didn't understand, all these different aspects of emotional intelligence, or why I didn't understand why I shouldn't behave the way that I was behaving. But it gets to a point where you're still old enough to understand that you shouldn't treat people the way that you treat them, or you shouldn't let people treat you the way that they are treating you. Because to an extent, it doesn't matter how old you are, young or not, you are still a human being interacting with other human beings. You've got to look yourself in the face and tell yourself, I'm going to stop letting people treat me this way, or I'm going to stop treating people this way. Because young or not, that is still your obligation. You're still held to some sense of accountability. And thankfully, as I've gotten a little bit older, I started to improve that ability to understand, and I started to improve my emotional intelligence. And those improvements can be defined by these 3 examples that I'm going to share. When you don't put yourself in a position to understand anything around you, any situation that you're in, you will always be confused. And that confusion will always lead to a lack of clarity, and that lack of clarity will always bring you to a lack of peace. And the first example that I have is an example from a while ago where I felt like my friends were disrespecting me and I just couldn't understand why. And I'm pretty sure I told this story on this channel before, but I had these friends that just continued to disrespect me, and I allowed it to happen for a little bit because I just thought that was our humor. I thought that's how we played, so I just, I didn't really set or establish that boundary. And then it got to a point where I got sick of it, so I said, okay, I've had enough, stop disrespecting me. Okay, perfect. I set this boundary. It was a little bit late, but I still set that boundary. Everything should be fine. No, they did not listen to that boundary at all. They continued to disrespect me. And now I'm thinking to myself, dang, what's wrong with me? Why am I letting these people disrespect me? Why are they so comfortable disrespecting me? I could not understand it at all. I did think that I had some understanding on the situation, and it turns out I didn't. I thought that they disrespected me. I didn't like how that felt, so I set that boundary. And then when it continued to happen, I was just in a sense of confusion. And the only thing that I got from that confusion and that lack of understanding was me blaming myself for the situation. I blamed myself. I viewed myself as lesser because these people around me cannot find it in themselves to just respect the wishes that I have or respect the boundaries that I'm setting. And the second example that I have is where I was hooked on this one girl for seemingly no reason. I had no reason to be hooked on this girl. We barely talked, and I didn't understand what about her made it so I couldn't get over her. I didn't understand it. That wasn't typical. I don't understand why I behaved in that way. And the only thing that I got from that lack of understanding was again blaming it on myself, thinking this person is so special. There has to be something wrong with me if I can't get over her. And then my third example is through academics. I was taking calculus my junior year of high school, and I just didn't understand it. I didn't understand what I was learning. I didn't understand why I was learning it. And that lack of understanding again brought me to a sense of confusion. What is wrong with me? Why are my peers understanding math? Why can I not understand math? All 3 of these examples of a lack of understanding are very different in their own rights, but they all leave you with the exact same feeling. A feeling of confusion. A feeling of what is wrong with me that I can't understand this stuff. And that is the main point that I'm making. When you don't understand, when you don't have that ability to understand the things that are happening in front of you, You will always be confused, and that confusion will always lead you to a lack of peace, a lack of clarity, and then you're going to start blaming yourself, and then it's going to bring you to a sense of self-deprecation. And as I've gotten older, I started to reflect and understand these situations a little bit more. So I'm going to give a different perspective to all three of these examples. The first example, where my friends just continued to disrespect me, like I said, that left me with a lot of confusion. I started to question, why am I the one being disrespected? Why can't they find it within themselves to just respect me, to respect the boundaries that I established, to respect the person that I was? And then I started to understand what I perceived as disrespect was exactly how we joked in the past. That was pretty much how our friendship was established. Those little competitive jokes, that little hints of disrespect that were never really disrespectful in the past. And then when I suddenly shifted my boundaries, it caught them off guard. It was a shock to them. And when you shift from something that was once deemed as a funny joke in a friendship to something that I'm now establishing a boundary on, for somebody that's 16 years old, because that's when this happened, we're all young. I understand that, we're all young. For somebody that's 16 years old, they're gonna hear that and just take it personal. They're gonna think, okay, why is he now suddenly establishing this boundary with me? What changed in our dynamic? What changed in our relationship? And I'm not saying that they were right to disrespect me. That's not the point. The point is that I now understand why they did. I now understand exactly why they took it personally, and I stopped blaming myself, because for me, that sense of understanding was my peace. The fact that I didn't have to blame myself, the fact that I can understand your perspective, I can understand why you thought to disrespect me, that brought me a sense of peace. And now that I'm older, I'm no longer confused as to why I was disrespected. So now in the future, when things like that happen, I can stop taking it as personal, and I can start establishing those boundaries maybe a little bit sooner. And even if I can't establish it a little bit sooner, I can start to, exert those boundaries in a different way to make it so the other person in front of me doesn't take it as personal. And then that second scenario, where I was obsessed and hooked on this one girl, I started to understand that the reason I behaved like that is because I just got out of a 2-year-long relationship. Of course, I'm not good to jump back into the game already. Of course, I should have taken some time to myself. Of course, the next person that I see that I deem as perfect is going to linger on my mind. It was nothing with this other person. It was never about how special she was. It was never about how amazing she was, about how unworthy I was to receive her. It was always about the fact that I jumped into it too early. I jumped into it when I should have been focused on myself. And it wasn't an easy fix. I'm not saying that it is an easy fix, but the fact that I'm able to now understand why I behaved the way that I did brought me some clarity. And that brought me so much peace, because I knew exactly what I can focus on. I knew exactly what can bring me to a better position in my life. And then that third scenario with calculus, I never understood why I was learning it. I never understood the importance of what I was learning. I never understood how it can be applicable to my real life. And now that I'm in college and I'm taking a calculus course, it's like I'm understanding all the things in front of me. I'm understanding why calculus is important. I'm understanding how you can learn how to, calculate interest rates through calculus. I know exactly what I'm studying. I know exactly what I'm doing. I know exactly why I'm studying the things that I'm studying. And you can take all those examples however you want to take them. But for me, when you master and you develop your ability to understand, you limit the confusion that you're facing in your life. And once you finally remove that confusion, you can start thinking logically. You can start approaching different situations in a way that's actually going to benefit you, in a way that's actually going to make sense in the future. If you take anything from those examples, is that you need to find new perspectives. Look at it from a different angle, because you only know what you know, and you don't know a lot. Other people have probably thought the same things that you have. Other people have probably thought infinitely more than you have. You need to start changing your perspective and understand a little bit more. And you'll find yourself in a position where you're at peace. You're no longer guessing what's going on. You're no longer confused as to why things are happening to you. You will have developed that superpower to where you're never shocked and you're never surprised. And that's going to take you a lot farther than whatever you think is going to take you far. But yeah, I hope you guys learned something from my experiences. I want to thank God for helping me create this video, because I would be nowhere near this position of understanding without God. And yeah, thank you guys for watching this video. See you guys next time. Peace out.